Back for another edition of Snap Tackle Pod here in week 8 of the high school football season in and around Kansas City. You've never been to Whataburger, Dion Clisso?
No.
I grew up on it. It's
Well,
life,
you're borderline
almost an
Oklahoman.
Oklahoman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Borderline
Still,
Oklahoman.
after many nights of Oklahoma State losing in football or basketball, that was the only thing that got me through it. Is a little trip to Whataburger on our drive home.
As someone who's been in different places, Sonic is the thing that I can remember as a child here in town was kind of the thing.
Sonic,
Sonic, yeah.
Great.
There's nothing, when I lived back east, there's no burger joint in Virginia that I go that has become national or somewhat.
Yeah.
The one burger place that I've gone out of town to that I would rave over would be In-N-Out.
Yeah.
I'm a big In-N-Out guy. I've had that in Vegas.
Great.
That's kind of my I don't know if I wouldn't stand in line for any burger, but the In-N-Outs, I have not had the Whataburger. The one in
they're different. Whataburger is more just kind of just a big old burger, big old bun. Where like In-N-Out is great, but you get done with one, you're like, man, I kind of want to get back in line for another.
Yeah, if Whataburger is a big bun, I'm kind of an anti-big bun person.
Oh, really? Okay.
My mother-in-law, who is a fantastic human being, she is always in search of some sort of bun for hamburgers, and she tends to get these like bakery fresh or brioche or something like that. And we always tend to, when we have burgers over there, and we have burgers over there a decent amount when we go over there on the weekends. There's a lot of bun, and I'm an anti.
Not a big brioche guy.
I'm not a big brioche guy when it comes to the bun. I have found
give you like the plain great value bun.
I have found, and this is these endorsements are not sponsored in any way.
It could be though.
The ballpark buns to me are about the right size. With the what I found this summer here at the Clisso house, we began to. Well, I got a gas grill. I went back to gas where I was many years a gas grill guy. Was a charcoal, then it became a charcoal grill. Had a Weber, all that kind of stuff. But with just 3 people.
Sure.
The charcoal going is a whole deal, and it's a whole thing.
It takes a while, yeah.
It takes a while, and I love to grill. So I luckily found a gas grill at Home Depot this spring for $130. A 3 burner.
Fleeced them.
Yeah. Well, as a good friend of mine, Cole Young, said, you could throw it away at the end of the year, and if you grill on it a decent amount, you made your money back in charcoal. Yeah. So I then went to Costco and found these 3rd-pound sirloin Angus burgers and was grilling those with the ballpark buns. They're frozen, now mind you. But I also got away from we need to find fresh hamburger, and then my wife needs to weigh them out and do, those kind of, no. So the frozen ones on there, grill them up. We have burgers. The one thing my 5'9", 105-pound child would eat was a double 3rd-pound burger with the ballpark buns, and pound that down. He did, and he does. So
I had no idea you thought this much about buns. I had no idea.
I didn't.
I wore the shirt. You told me you hadn't eaten it. Whataburger, and here we go. 5 minutes in.
Well, I'm just saying. I love my mother-in-law to death. I mean, but there's a lot of real bready buns that have come through that make it hard to eat the burger.
Okay,
it's a lot to get down. So
try Whataburger. Okay. Here's your homework. Try Whataburger. You got one right down the street in Blue Springs.
Yes, on the north, right by I-70 in Blue Springs.
Try it and then get back to me for next week.
Okay, I will.
That work?
Yep. All right, are we done? Is that it?
That's it. That's
Thanks
all.
Thanks for joining us.
No, because we have so much to talk to back from week 7 and looking ahead to week 8 here. High school football in Kansas City. He's Dion Clisso of PrepsKC. I'm Mick Shaffer of KSHB 41. Just a couple weeks away from the playoffs here. Dion, which means a lot of rivalry games, right? Towards the back end of schedules, you have rivalry games. We had a couple big ones on the Kansas side last week. I want to start with Bishop Miege and Aquinas. Kind of low score, a surprisingly low scoring game that Miege comes out on top of.
Well, and Aquinas was banged up. They came out of that Rockers game banged up, and so they were kind of down offensively. And Miege, I think, they come off the Rockhurst game. They get tested by Blue Valley, had to kind of rally in the second half to get that game. And I think they were just kind of maybe in a better mental position and physical position to be in that game than Aquinas was. Aquinas coming off that tough game where they just didn't close out against Rockhurst. They blew 2 huge leads. And so, Miege was probably like more ready to play than say, no, don't say that. That sounds bad. Because that sounds like a coach thing. I just think that maybe in a mental place, they were ready to go, and maybe physically ready to go, and they kind of imposed their will in that game. It was 19-0 most of that game. That being said, I think if they play again in a few weeks in the postseason, I think it's still a toss-up game. I just think Miege was in a better spot and took care of their business against Aquinas.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be down on Aquinas. It just that's the way that game looked. It just looked like Miege was in a better spot, and they kind of handled it.
I tell you what, we always talk about John Holmes teams and those Bishop Miege teams. Talk about the quarterback, right? You think the high flying offense. It's always a receiver that's putting up 1,500 yards or something like that. They got a defense this year. I mean,
their defense is really
good. They held Blue Valley Southwest to only 28 in 51-28 win, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And you hold Rockhurst to only 21. You hold Aquinas just to 7 points. That's a defense that's played well this year.
Yeah, it definitely has. And I think, coming into the season, that's what he said. He goes, our defense is pretty good and we can run the ball and we'll figure out if we can pass it. They have been able to throw the ball and they've done a good job with that. But no, I think defensively, that's the thing you got to keep an eye on with this team as they go into the postseason, as things go down the line. They got Blue Valley West this week. They'll be tested. It's a good physical, tough, rushing attack that they have. And, but no, they're defensively, they're tough. I mean, Rock has been a team that's been able to oppose their will, and they only got 21 points on them. So that's the thing about Miege. I think that will be their kind of the calling card as they go forward. If they're going to win another state title, their defense is definitely going to be one of the big reasons why.
Yeah, absolutely. Another rivalry game on the Kansas side was Washington Wyandotte. Near and dear to my heart, man. I've been a lot of those football and basketball games back in the day, and this was a good game. It's a close game.
Wyandotte is improving. Washington's definitely the better team, I think. They've got more, and Wyandotte got an early lead, and then Washington kind of pulled away, but they kept fighting. And there's a great quote from Cameron Smith. He said, that he had a lot of respect for the way Wyandotte, even though Washington got up on him, kept fighting and clawing and scratching and trying to get back in that game. And I think we're seeing, it's tough sometimes when you look at the Meadowlark League and those KCK schools to kind of see where the improvement is. Harmon's given up big numbers, but they had their first, we talked about them last week, having their first lead in 5 years. Wyandotte getting their first win last week. But I think you're seeing some improvement out of those programs. Washington, I think, is definitely the best program in that school district. Atchison's the best program in that league. They're just dominating people. I'm curious to see them step out of league and see what they'll do. But no, I think that's a good win for Washington. They really are. This is their best season maybe since 2019. That they've had things going on. Well, of course, they didn't play in 2021, or 20, and then 21 they came back. But no, it was a good game for both teams, and I think you're seeing growth out of both those programs.
Yep. All right, I want to talk about the battle for Blue Valley. I've been here a long time. I've seen it recently where Blue Valley Northwest is the best team, where Blue Valley North has been the best team. I remember 08, a Blue Valley West state title, and lots of years Blue Valley has been the best of the 5. Have we ever been able to say that Blue Valley Southwest is the best? No, the best. If not, we're saying it this year.
The best they were was probably 2012, and that's when they were in a 4A team. It was the third year. And that's the year that the third year since they'd opened. The first year was 2010, and they didn't have any seniors, and so they played a ton of sophomores. When those sophomores became seniors, that was probably the best year they had. They really are outstanding. Offensively, they're going to hang 40 points on you.
Oh yeah,
and you get to 50. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you said, Miege's the only team that hold them under 30, and they got the win. I mean, that's probably what you got to do. You got to figure out a way to hold them under 30, because they can get up and down the field, and it doesn't really matter. Defensively, they've given up some points, and that will be the question in the postseason. Will they be able to stop somebody if somebody stops them? That's the one question
they're
I have.
comfortable in shootouts, though. I mean, they're fine.
Yeah.
Okay, how long can you run with us, team?
Yeah,
because we're going to keep scoring.
Well, and it's interesting because you look at a team like Mill Valley up until a couple weeks ago, they didn't score as much, and they were offensively challenged, but defensively they were great. And that's probably the team that I think everybody would think that is, them and Blue Valley Southwest were the two teams, third DeSoto in that mix as well. But it's going to be interesting because DeSoto's played pretty good defense, but they've been some shootouts too. So
yeah,
no, Southwest is don't plan on a 2-hour game. Yeah. It's going to be a while, and there's going to be a lot of points scored. So no, they've been impressive, and Coach Anthony Ork has done a fantastic job. Dylan Dunn, their quarterback, just goes out and gets it up and down the field. I mean, they're fun to watch. I mean, there's no doubt.
It's funny, those three teams, Mill Valley, Blue Valley Southwest, and DeSoto will be jockeying for position these last couple of weeks in the last couple of weeks of the season as far as the 5A East standings go. Everybody wants to obviously play at home, and so Blue Valley Southwest, their season's ended on Mill Valley's field the last 2 years. DeSoto, though, of course, in the same district as Mill Valley, but I think they're eyeing Blue Valley Southwest more because Southwest put a whooping on them last year, and that's who their season ended against. So a lot of those three teams might be a round robin the playoffs.
Well, and you, not that you could all you can do is win your games and get where you get. But you ideally, if you're one of those three teams, you only want to have to play one.
Yeah. You want to
you don't want to play both. Whether you're
you might rather be the 4 seed than the 3, right? Yeah. One of the others is the 2. Same deal if you're the
and I think all those teams, you want a home game, and I think all those teams travel. I think that I think in high school the winning on the road is not necessarily as big a deal sometimes. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. I think when it comes to the postseason, your fans are going to travel. I mean, I think that's one of the situations, but you definitely don't want to have to play both. Yeah. You want to play. There's talk of, in 4A is like, where's St. James? Because they're on the bottom half of the bracket, and you don't want
people are still voting them third in like the 4A poll, right? With
I mean, not in my poll, but I mean, they're a dangerous team. I mean, they went back and forth with Blue Valley West last week. They beat Pius, 2 weeks ago. They've got Capon this week, so I think we're gonna have a good idea of what 5A looks like on the west side.
Yeah.
Recky's been in the spot before. Nothing is new to him and that staff of being on the short side of a record right now, looking to make a run.
Yeah. All right, let's switch over to the Missouri side here. And Blue Springs rising a bit last week. Now, they both lost games, but both were more competitive games than we thought. First up was Blue Springs. I mean, hanging close with Rockers in the Kelly Donahoe Bowl.
Well, we talked about this before we started. From what I heard is that Blue Springs, yes, it was a close game, but I don't think that Rockers was in danger of losing that game.
14-10.
I think it was a late touchdown scored.
14-10. Even 14-3 is close. Ask Rockers. I bet they weren't like the whole time like, we got this.
No, I know. But from what I heard is Rockers was the better team, and it showed in that game. South played well. They 28 points on Liberty North, which is
Liberty North was scared.
The most they've given up all season long. So, and I think, it's one of those things that Andy Lehrman talked about before the season. And one of the things that he thought that they didn't play well against CBC last year because they didn't have adversity. They hadn't really faced adversity during the regular season. They lost to Lee Summit North in week 1. And then Blue Springs South came in and hung. It's kind of, there's no attaboys for coming close. But Blue Springs South has come close. And the only game that they've been dominated was Rockers.
What? I'm giving them an attaboy. So there's at least one for being close.
So, they've got Blue Springs this week. And then they close with Liberty. And they're in a funny spot. They're in the 5 seed in their district right now out of 5 teams. If they were to beat Blue Springs, they probably would jump they would easily jump over Truman to the 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then be behind Blue Springs, who they would have the head-to-head with. So they would jump to the 3 and probably put them in position to play Liberty back-to-back weeks, just like they did last year, right, and not have to play Liberty North in the second round, or have a second round or have a first round game. So we'll see. I mean, I think the Blue Springs South game this week is a toss-up, but we'll see. But they sit as a 5 seed right now, and then they, like I said, if they beat Blue Springs, they would jump. And probably jump Truman and be in a spot to go from 5 to 3 real easy. At the same time, Blue Springs wins, they lock down to 3, and I think that district is pretty much set.
Yeah. Speaking of districts here, it came out this week that Grandview, they're forfeiting their first 4 games. Is that right?
Yeah, they were 3-1 in those games, so basically technically forfeiting 3 games because they already lost the game to Green Valley by a +13, so it didn't really matter. Yeah, they had an ineligible player that due to some grade situations, I guess, that they didn't find out about, and they self-reported to Misha, and so the penalty of that is forfeiting those first 4 games. Like I said,
so are they 0-7 then now?
No, they're 3-4. They were 6-1 going into.
Gotcha.
They were 5-1 going
into the updated schedule. They are updated 3-4 now.
3-4.
Okay.
Which drops them down.
That's reflected in the districts, right? Yeah. They just they lose all those points. They lose the win.
Basically, they take 3 13-0 losses. So which is interesting because the 3 teams they beat, they 13 plus them easily. Yeah. You know, they beat Crispin 40-0. Now it's a 13-0 Crispin win. So it is what it is. And you know, it's interesting. And I noticed this last night as I was typing in the district standings, and we've had this discussion before that I type up the district standings for both sides of the state line and put it on our site.
I picture you doing it on a typewriter with a real.
No, yeah, you do think, yeah.
Take it out.
The Grandview is not alone in the forfeit game in Missouri this year.
Okay.
There are several schools, like that I noticed. And the way I noticed was a school would go from 1-5 to 3-4. They would pick up 2 wins during the week because the school they had played and lost to had forfeited to them. St. Pius X out of Festus has forfeited games. St. Mary's, well, used to be just St. Mary's in St. Louis, and then they lost their accreditation, not the accreditation. They lost their backing. They lost their backing from the Catholic diocese. So now they're St. Mary's Southside, which sounds weird. Just an independent school. They forfeited games. Of course, there's the notorious TDW Prep, which is not a Misha sanctioned school, who's forfeited their entire schedule. Then there's Doniphan, who in Class 3 hasn't necessarily forfeited, but just ended their season for lack of players. A Class 3 school, not enough players.
The one in Missouri?
Yes, Doniphan, Missouri. And the coach quit. There's Doniphan County, Kansas, but there's Doniphan, a town, Missouri.
Yeah.
Their coach quit over some sort of racial thing, and then they didn't have any players, so they just ended their season. So Grandview's forfeits are not they're not alone in that situation. So, and I was going to email Jason West over at Misha and be like, is it just me, or is there a lot more forfeits this year than normal? What's kind of going on here to see what the deal is? I know, like I said, Grandview forfeited those first 4 games, and they self-reported. I mean, they found out the kid was ineligible.
How often is it a self-reporting, and how often is it some other school?
I don't know. It's funny because we went through all the COVID stuff, and nobody forfeited, even though 2 years in, I was wondering why we weren't, forfeiting game. It was just you didn't have a game. You just were, free and clear to cancel a game.
It didn't count, right?
It didn't count. And now we're back to 4. It's one of those deals that, like, when I was at the Examiner back in the 90s, St. Mary's High School won a baseball state championship and had to forfeit it.
Well, I remember the
Pembroke Hill,
the Viannis, basketball.
Yeah, they had to forfeit those 2 with the Rush brothers situation, and I story from the Rush brothers situation when they were kind of trying to figure out what they were going to do. Misha had a committee pulled together of like ADs trying to figure out what they're going to do. And they met at St. Teresa's. It was such a weird deal, and they didn't know what the situation was because of some of the people involved who had criminal histories. Tim Crone was on that committee, and he told me they were meeting at St. Teresa's with like police presence outside the building because they didn't. He goes, it was like the weirdest thing he ever said it happened to in academics. I remember the rush. So those are vacant state championships, I think, aren't they? I don't think that they awarded state championships. I think it's just vacant.
Seems like that happens a lot more in Missouri than it does in Kansas.
Yeah. I think sometimes I feel like Missouri dives deep into stuff.
Yeah, I feel like they do. And like the Trent Hosick thing, right? Whenever his family moving, right? Moving from, was it Nixa or Ozark? Ozark to the Staley area, whether it was for work or sport, I don't know. I don't care. I mean, they moved a state away, and Ozark threw such a fit to Misha that he wasn't eligible for
and the whole
for sports.
The whole, you check the box, they're moving for athletics is
it's
interesting.
Not like Oak Park to Staley, right? Right. It was Ozark. Southwest Missouri to Staley.
Which is funny, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. They used to check the box a lot more than they do now. And I think that people don't check the box now on whether they're moving for athletics to where Misha has to investigate. Because I think there's some, working in the margins on a lot of schools. And I don't think if you check the box, then the box might be checked on you. So maybe you just want to.
Right. Yeah. No, that's how it is, fresh, baseball. You don't want to really challenge the guy with the pine tar, right? Because your guys got two. But at the same time, how do you prove it's for sports, especially nowadays when so many people work from home and you're really going to investigate your parents' jobs?
I don't know.
If somebody picks up and moves to a school district,
I've always said if you pick up
and play right away.
I always said if you pick up and move, then that's fine.
Yes.
I think what we may be running into now is we moved.
That's the big.
You follow that kid home, and he's.
I got an uncle over here at these apartments. I
heard of a kid from Blue Springs South who finished his career north of the river, who was seen every night in Blue Springs during basketball season. So
yeah. Well, that's going to turn that District 7 for. In Class 4, kind of upside down, right? If Grandview's right in the middle of it.
Well, like you've got, I mean, it's definitely a district that changes things. I think Grandview's sitting fourth now.
Yeah,
in that district, and so it's
fifth.
Yeah, I mean,
behind Carl Junction, who won 6.
Yes. So if you're in Nevada, you're sitting there thinking, who am I getting the second round? You're definitely getting a better team than you were getting before.
Yes, absolutely are.
Because they're going to go.
They went from probably.
They closed with Kearney and Grandview, which is probably they were probably looking at a 7-2 or a 6-3 finish. So they were probably in these two games, or which they're the underdog probably going in these two games. I think Kearney and Smithville have proven what they are. If you're Nevada. You thought that maybe you'd get them in the district final, and now you're probably getting them in the second round.
Yeah.
So, and if you're also Nevada, you don't want to lose another game because, Lincoln Prep is right there on your heels, and Lincoln Prep's going to finish out probably 8-1. And hats off to Lincoln Prep, by the way. Talk about a team that really has got things going and done well. So
good one last week.
It changes things. Let's just say this on Twitter on Saturday. There was a lot of people throwing things out there that they had heard, and that's what Twitter is. And I don't call it X. I don't give a crap what Elon Musk says. It's Twitter. Somebody will come in and change all that crap back when he's done playing around. But as a journalist, I consider myself a journalist. I went out, found out information, got the statement from Grandview, confirmed it with Misha on Sunday, put out the information that was happening. There's all these things about 10, 20 players, people were putting out there.
Yeah.
Just because it's called social media, it's not. The word media and journalism are sometimes put together, but the things that you can prove are that they self-reported one ineligible player and they forfeited 4 games. That's all that you can prove. And that's all that is real. And other people reported other things. Other people who are not journalists, they just have Twitter handles, which anyone could have. My 13-year-old could have a Twitter handle. So take that for what it's worth. So I think that it's important to note that that's what's happened. They're moving on, and now they'll play football. And what sucks for those kids is Granby was in position to have some home playoff games and things like that, and now they're not.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's because of the errors of adult, whether errors of omission or not doing their job right. I don't know. Mistakes were made, and now kids suffer, and we've seen that be a problem. And while you can say to Misha, well, come on now, it was just a mistake. But they have bylaws and that they have to go by, and that's what they had to do. So that's what it is. University Academy is not playing in the postseason because they made a mistake in terms of putting their numbers in. So they're not in a classification. That's Misha's bylaws. Do I think that they should have been allowed some grace? Probably. But there's rules in place that need to follow. So the moral of the story is adults in those positions need to do a better job so the kids aren't penalized. Kids, get your grades.
Yeah. All right. Enough on that. Let's move forward. Remax Big Three. We'll stay in Missouri since we're talking about districts here. Lee Summit North and Lee Summit West. 1.49 points separate the Broncos and the Titans in District 6 in Class 6. They play this week. This is it's the biggest game in Kansas City, right? 7-0, 7-0.
Easily. And the beauty of that, you can sit there and tell me points all you want. Doesn't matter. They're right next to each other. Whoever wins this game gets the top seed. Nobody's coming to get them. Those two teams.
Who do they both have in the final week? Any weirdness that could happen there?
Lee Summit has Liberty North, but they could. But here's the thing: if Lee Summit West beats Lee Summit North and then loses the Liberty North, and they're behind Lee Summit North, they still get them because they get the head-to-head.
Head-to-head, gotcha.
Head-to-head. So
right next to each other, you flip-flop, right?
Yeah. So whoever wins this is going to have the head-to-head. I don't think that. The only thing that if you're Lee Summit West, if you lost this week and next week, you might drop below Rockhurst, depending on how that shakes out. But that's the thing. It's like it's the head-to-head for these two teams is everything. And that's the beauty of the Missouri system is that the head-to-head, which didn't used to be automatic. Initially, it was you had to have the votes. They would vote like a basketball district seating on whether or not to allow the team that beat the other team head-to-head to move up. Mm-hmm. And then that lasted like 2 or 3 years, and then they just made it. If you have the head-to-head and you're behind, you get the bump.
Right.
And it starts at the top. So you can't be the 4 seed and beating the 3 teams ahead of you and just keep bumping up. It starts at the top. So did one lose to 2? Yeah. Then they bump. And then you go down to the next. So if you're Lee Summit West or Lee Summit North, you win this game, you're in position to get that top seed. So that's Lee Summit West has been really the surprise team and as impressive a team that's been out there. Outside of week 1, they've pretty much handled everybody. Now, this is the toughest part of their schedule. There's no way around it. They get the 2 number 1 and number 2 ranked teams in the state. So this is definitely, they're taking a step up in terms of who they played right here. So this is, we're going to find out about both these teams. Lee Summit North has done this, still kind of doing this, let people hang around for a little bit and then kind of pull away from thing. I don't know if you want to do that with Lee Summit West because their defense is legit. They're not going to let you pump out 28 points in the second half. And they've got, big time players just like Lee Summit North does. So no, good game. Looking forward to it. It's on Spectrum. I'm gonna watch it. Gonna put some eyes on it myself. Look forward to it.
Speaking of tough stretches, Ray Pack goes from Lee Summit North to Lee Summit West, and now at Liberty North. That's one of your big 3 games.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. I was texting with Cole Young last night. You look at the state rankings, and look, I'm sure the people in the segment are really enjoying their undefeated rank. But there's some teams. Ray Peck is a team that if it didn't play in Kansas City, instead of being 3-4, they might be 6-1. And it harkens back to I think 2013 Tom Cruise told a story where they went and they played at Columbia Rockbridge. They beat Columbia Rockbridge, and the AD, because Tom was the AD and head coach, walks over to him after the game. Was like, "Hey," the Rockbridge AD goes, "Hey, good game. We're hoping we can get to the state championship game so we can probably see you again." And Cruz walked off and he goes, "We're the 5th best team in Kansas City. What is he talking about?"
And they had a better chance of getting there than Ray Peck did.
Yeah. I mean, well, they in fact played for the state championship against Blue Springs that year and got hammered. But that's kind of the way. I just wonder, outside of like a DeSmet and maybe a CBC, I just don't. I feel like I said, like Ray Peck is I think if you look at the record, you'd say middling or average because they're 3-4. I think they're a pretty solid team. They've got some big time players. But I think they're, going up against a Liberty North team who's definitely defensively going to be a little more focused after Blue Springs South put up 28 on them last week. So I think it's a good game, but Ray Peck's a team you don't want to, you can't look past because I think they're pretty solid.
Yeah. All right. And then the third Remax Big 3 game on the Missouri side, Kearney is at Grandview.
Yep.
We talked about Grandview. This is not a district game, correct?
No, because they're in 2 different districts. And so I think this is for Grandview. They found out at 4:00 they were forfeiting those games. Came out and had kind of not a great game against Ruskin. So now they got a full week to kind of digest things. Kearney quietly just gone about their business. They hung 40 on a very good Raytown South defense last week. I think that says a lot about them. That's more than Smithville scored on them. So this is a team that's kind of, lost their first 2 games and have just been like, oh, okay, we're still good. Bill Oots told me after week 1, he's like, hey, Kearney's going to be fine. Don't worry about Kearney. They're still going to be good. So no, this is for both these teams. This is a big time test as you get ready to head to the postseason. And then Grandview's got Smithville next week. So this is the Grandview, Kearney, Smithville have been the best Class 4 teams in the city all year long, and now Grandview kind of gets to play the round robin here at the end of the year to find out where they sit in that mix.
Well, bonus game on the Missouri side, Oak Park at St. Joe Central. St. Joe Central's had a nice season so far. Is that because of the schedule? Does Oak Park have anything to worry about here? What do you think?
Well, one thing that St. Joe, they can score. They've got good offense. Now, Oak Park's defense has been pretty good. Now, they gave us some points to Lee Summit in a back and forth game a couple weeks ago, and that shows that they can be scored upon. I like Oak Park in that game, but that's not discounting. I think St. Joe Central, this is a legit game, and I think St. Joe Central is very talented and well coached. Reggie Trotter's done a great job with that program. I think Oak Park wins that game, but I think, like I said, I think St. Joe Central's legit. Their record is what it should be. I think they are what they should be. Yep. They've earned that record.
Yep. Over in Kansas, Remax Big 3 games, Mill Valley at Olathe North at ODAC. Olathe North, the only team to beat Mill Valley last year. Both these teams come in with just 1 loss. Both of them 2. Gardner.
Not to kick dirt on Hayden Jay's grave there, but no pick sixes this week, and maybe you'll have a little better outcome than you did last year. Hayden, love you, bud. Up in Northwest, I'm sure you're enjoying life there. Maybe his worst game as a high school player last year, but no, bounce back and led his team to the state championship. But I think this is an interesting game for both teams. I think a little call there. I think they're both really talented. I think they both have ideas of maybe playing for a state championship. And I think this is a good spot I think for both teams. You don't want to lose this game because it's positioning on your bracket. But if you go out, it gives you a good test going to the postseason and figuring out where you're at. Mill Valley has really, since the Gardner game, offensively exploded against some teams they should, but also, just because you should score a lot of points doesn't mean you always do. And early in the season, maybe Mill Valley wasn't. Olathe North's Olathe North. I mean, they just, they do what they do. Gardner's, they came close against Gardner, even though offensively they didn't get a lot going on. TJ Porter was out that week, so I think that definitely is a situation for them that they they were not full strength, and I think they are now. So no, good game. That's one of those, if you went and looked at the schedule beginning of the season and started circling games,
yeah,
it's definitely one you circle.
That was definitely circled for both sides. Over in Lawrence, we've got the battle for the city. I don't know what it's called. I just call it the battle for the city right there. Lawrence at Free State. Two teams with good starts this season. Well, more than starts. Good record so far.
Yeah, no, Lawrence got the 2 losses to Olathe East and Gardner. Free State, Coach Stewart has done a great job with that team, and that whole coaching staff should be very happy. They got a quarterback, Wesley.
They're the quietest 6-0 team out there. They're the quietest. We said last.
Not only that, they're on the east side or on the west side, so they don't. Both of them, they go west. So I mean, if you're Free State here, you get this win, you got to feel pretty good about yourself. And Lawrence too. I mean,
and I don't know. I think this is the first team. Let's see here. Now that they beat Olathe East, which has proven to be a good win. Olathe East 4-2. That's the only team with a winning record they played, and so maybe that's part of it, right? And so they host.
But they've dominated
the North the last 2 games. Things are going to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but they've dominated teams. I mean, they've done what they should do, and I think Olathe East is a pretty good team. I think they beat Lawrence and over 2 days, and that was a thunderstorm game. The only time happened to play on the 1 or 2 days it's rained here in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
But no, I think both these teams are really interesting, and I think this will be a fun game. And you like I said, you talk about the quarterbacks, Wesley Edison, and then Banks Bowen for Lawrence, who started the season being a dual threat runner. And the last few weeks, they've kind of opened up the passing game, and he's put up more numbers there. And Wesley Edison's more of a passer who can run type of thing. So no, it's as I always say, Lawrence Free State, the home of the dual threat quarterback. Doesn't matter what year it is, they've got a dual threat. Usually
just a Deneen.
Well, there's been some Deneens, but there's been other guys that have come through.
Deneens, they haven't all played quarterback. I know.
They've had 3 Deneens and 2 Tornadons.
4 Deneens
and 2 Tornadons, which help the dual threat. Yeah. But no, they've been playing other guys. 2
Deneens went to KU, 2 went to K-State.
And 1 Tornadon went to K-State, didn't he?
Bryce went to KU, and I don't remember where the other one is.
Yeah. So, no, it's a fun game. Looking forward to kind of watching a little bit of that on Friday night as well. And it's like I said, it's both those programs are in good hands and doing well. And I think when Lawrence and Free State are good, it helps the Sunflower. And then next year, they're coming back over the East, which is going to make it even tougher. So
and we're just going to stay in the Sunflower League for the final Kansas Remax Big 3 game. You have Shawnee Mission East. It doesn't really matter at or where. It's at their home stadium against Shawnee Mission Northwest home stadium at Shawnee Mission North. Another storyline we don't talk about enough is Mark Simoes, the head coach.
Yeah.
Over at Shawnee Mission East. They're running the Flexbone. He's got his Flexbone card, right? And you have Shawnee Mission Northwest. I thought it was fun. Interesting. Mill Valley gets routed by Gardner. They get mad. They take it out on Olathe South. Route Olathe South. Olathe South got mad last week and took it out on Shawnee Mission Northwest.
Yes.
It was a 51-0 win. I wonder if they passed the anger on to the Cougars.
Well, and I think Shawnee Mission Northwest was a team early on. They played Olathe North well. Shawnee Mission East has I think steadily improved as the season's gone on.
3-3, yeah.
Yeah. And I think when the season started, if you'd asked people that had 3 wins, they might have said that's a lot for
They won their last 3 as well, and it's one was against Olathe Northwest, and Shawnee Mission West, Shawnee Mission North.
Yeah,
good, and they were 3 points away from beating Lawrence.
Yes,
and honestly, I saw the first game of the year. They lost to Gardner 42-7. That's a respectable score, actually, Gardner this year.
Yes.
Not bad. Yes. That's an attaboy right there.
Yes. So I think this is that's why it's a Big 3 game. It's a Shawnee Mission East team that's showing improvement. The Shawnee Mission Northwest, when they haven't played, some really good teams, they got to hand it to them by Olathe South last week. That's first kind of like bad. I don't want to say bad loss. I think the numbers are bad. loss. I think South's a good team. So anytime it's a good inter-district game. I mean, they're playing both Shawnee Mission schools. This is kind of teams that are trying to get into the middle class of the Sunflower League, because there's 75 teams in the Sunflower League. So there's all different types of levels of that conference. So, trying to get to that middle class and with playoffs away, with postseason coming, try and get yourself up that ladder a little more. And this is the game, for both these teams to try and do that.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. We've covered a lot here. Anything more?
Whataburger. Simone Watch. Simone Watch, we had that out last week. We'll update this week with some different, we'll do Fontana, I think, this week. Ty Williams only had 165 yards. 3 touchdowns against Columbia. I think he played a half.
Really? Oh,
they've got William Crispin this week. He may have to play a little more. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
we'll dive into Simone Awards first things first next week. How about that?
Yes, we'll do that.
All right. Enjoy your games on Friday nights. Check out PrepsKC as well as KSHB 41. You'll see Dion both places. Well, you'll see his work both places. So can't wait. I'll be off. So you'll
be at ODAC.
ODAC, and I'm driving to K-State after that for a little dad's weekend. Just they're both kids.
Who's K-State got this week?
They're on the road at
dad's weekend with no football game.
I like it that way. Hotels are way way more available. So we'll see.
You don't crash at the fraternity house with the boy?
No, I'm not sleeping there. Sorry.
It's probably a smart move on your part.
Yeah. All right, Dion. Thanks so much. For Dion, I'm Mick. We'll see you next time on Snap Tackle Pod.